guys, it's Jasma, and today we're going to make no-churn ice cream, specifically cookie dough, coffee, coconut no-churn ice cream. This definitely is an unconventional ice cream flavor, but that's really just the bright side of making ice cream yourself because you can add whatever you'd like to it and customize it till you find your favorite flavor. I'm so excited to share with you guys a no-churn ice cream recipe because it requires no ice cream maker, which kind of just simplifies the whole process by a whole ton, but you still get really, really delicious ice cream. So let's get started. I'm going to start by making the cookie dough for this ice cream. Now, if you've never made edible cookie dough before, it's essentially a regular cookie dough except there are no eggs inside of it, and we're also going to cook the flour beforehand so it's completely safe to eat raw. So to cook my flour, I'm using my stove top, but you can also just pop it into the oven and just mix it around every few minutes so that it cooks evenly. I'm going to turn the heat up to medium. And I'll just keep mixing it, and it should start to turn a little bit yellow in color. That's when you know it's fully cooked. You don't want to let this go too far or it will burn. Now to assemble the cookie dough, I have a bowl here, and to it I'm going to add my softened salted butter. I'm using salted butter today because I like my cookie dough slightly salty. If you want to use unsalted butter, that's fine. Just add a pinch of salt to it as well. I'm going to give it a quick mix to just move everything out. Then to that, add in the brown sugar. Then add a splash of vanilla. You can also add different types of spices if you would like. Once you mix this to the point where it becomes a little bit pale in color and everything is incorporated, you can add in the flour, which has cooled slightly. You don't want it to be super hot or it will melt the butter and give you a really greasy dough. Since there is no eggs in this recipe, we are going to need some type of liquid to bring the dough together. So I have a little bit of milk. Once my dough comes together, I'm going to add in the chocolate. I have some mini chocolate chunks here that I just briefly chopped up. You can also use mini chocolate chips if you have that on hand. Just make sure that whatever type of chocolate that you're adding, they're not really large in size, because once they're frozen, they're going to taste like a rock inside of your ice cream, and you don't really want that. So I'm just going to fold that in. So onto a tray here, I have some plastic wrap, and I'm just going to press the cookie dough into a slab so that later on, once it's chilled, we can cut it up into smaller chunks to place into the ice cream. I have the cookie dough in the freezer for it to chill, and now we're going to work on the coffee flavoring. So basically this is a pretty simple kind of a coffee syrup type of situation, and we're going to whip it up to make a whipped coffee. You don't necessarily need to whip it up if you don't want to, but I think it just combines into the ice cream base a lot nicer. So here I have some instant coffee granules. We're just using equal parts coffee, sugar, and water. You can add more or less of this depending on how strong you want your coffee flavor to be. Moving over to my stand mixer now, we can begin to make the ice cream base. So I'm making a coconut ice cream base and then adding the coffee flavoring to it afterwards. If you do not like coconut or you don't have coconut cream on hand, you can just leave that out and replace it with the same amount of whipping cream. It'll work exactly the same. But I think the coconut has a really nice undertone to it and it adds so much flavor to this ice cream, so I always add a little bit of that. So in terms of ingredients, I have my coconut cream and sweetened condensed milk, which I just took out of the fridge. You want to make sure all of your ingredients and also equipment is very cold so that it whips up to the best possible result. I'm also going to be adding a little bit of alcohol into this recipe. So this is 1 tablespoon of scotch. You won't taste it in the ice cream at all, but what the alcohol does is it prevents the ice cream from becoming really icy. You can totally leave this out if you don't feel comfortable adding it, but it does add to the texture of your final result. So I have my stand mixer. You can also use a hand mixer if you would like to, and I actually froze the whisk attachment to make sure that it's extra cold. And then to the bowl, I'm going to add in my coconut cream. I'm going to start by whisking this up just a little bit to incorporate a little air. This is now slightly fluffier, so I'm going to add in all of these ingredients, starting off with the sweetened condensed milk. Then I have my scotch, vanilla, and finally a pinch of salt. Then I'm just going to mix this until everything is combined. And now we're going to add in the whipping cream. I have my very cold whipping cream that I just took out of the fridge, and I'm going to add half of this into this mixture. Mix that until just combined, and then add in the rest of the cream. My ice cream base has formed a peak. It's not going to be a super stiff peak, but it should be able to be nice and thick, and you should be able to see the tracks of the beater inside of it. So now what I'm going to do is divide this in half, and I'm going to add the coffee flavoring that I made earlier into half of it. I want to create a bit of a rippled ice cream instead of just having one flavor overall, but if you would like, you can also just add the coffee into this and mix it together. It'll also taste really great. I have both of my ice cream flavors ready to go and the cookie dough chopped up into chunks so we can finally assemble this ice cream. I'm going to be using this rectangular dish that's nice and deep. It makes it easier to scoop later on, but you can also use a loaf pan or really any sort of container you'd like. Since I want a rippled ice cream, I'm going to alternate between these two flavors and sprinkling the cookie dough throughout so we get a nice and even distribution. I have 2 spoons. I'm going to cover this with some plastic wrap and place it into the freezer for it to chill until it's fully solid. It usually takes up to 6 hours, but I like to just leave it in there overnight. So that's it with this video. I really hope that you could try out this flavor because I swear to you, you will not be disappointed. And comment down below your favorite ice cream flavor and any recommendations that you want me to try out so I can recreate them for you guys as well. Thank you for watching and see you guys next time. Bye!